Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Monday. It's the 22nd day of May 2023. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope that your family and you had a good weekend, that the needs of you and your family are being met, and that you're all safe and healthy. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field, along with the first responders, every day trying to save lives, and those that keep picking up garbage for us to keep places clean and disease free, as well as those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings to the men and women that are here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover the teenagers and the children that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. The victims also of pornography and child pornography, prostitution and child prostitution, human trafficking and sex slavery. Double curses on those that participate in these things. Double curses on those that profit from these things. And double curses on the perverts that create the demand of which other perverts provide the supply. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and children homeless in the United States of America, mostly children, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Today I want to talk about Pascal Siakam. And before I do, I want to clarify a couple of things that I don't think you guys understand. A lot of you won't understand anyway, but some of you will. And that is, when you're talking about the Knicks and free agency, you not only have to consider the player, but you must consider the cost. So when we talked about Cat last week and how he was going to be due upwards of $60 million in the final year of his contract, and over 50 for the next year, I think he's going to get 38, 39, then he's going to get 40, and he's going to get 50, then 60. You got to consider that, because that's going to affect your team. Now, the whole cap is going to rise next year, and it's going to continue to rise. But some of these contracts are going to hurt teams' flexibility going forward. And the same can be said for Jalen Brown. Jalen Brown is eligible for $290 million over 4 years. He's eligible for $290 million over 4 years. No, I think it's 5 years, over 5 years. $290 million over 5 years. That's what he's eligible for. And the reason for that is because he was all NBA this past season. Okay. Once you get all NBA, you get a percentage of the league cap number. So in his case, it depends on if you're first team, second team, or third team. But you get 25% as a max player, but then it goes up to 28 and 30, and that gets stretched. That's why you will see salaries into the $50 million range. So when you're looking at players like that, you have to consider cost, as well as, of course, we talked about before, fit. Okay, so if a player is going to cost you $50 million a year, for example, but in the 5 years or 4 years that you sign this player, you're going to win 2 championships, it's well worth paying him the $50 million a year. Okay, if there's a chance, or if it doesn't look like that guy can get you into that position, you're not going to pay that money. Okay, so the most valuable asset the Knicks have is Julius Randle. He was just all NBA, but his salary, in terms of what we're talking about, is cheap. Okay, his salary is cheap. So they should move him, because again, you bring back Julius Randle next year, you're going to have a good season. You're going to probably win 50 games next year. But you're going to get the same problems you had this year. It's not going to change. You're not going to get any better consistent attitude. He's going to not perform well in the playoffs. No, it wasn't his ankle that stopped him from performing well in the playoffs. It was his attitude. Okay. Jimmy Butler hurt his ankle. Well, how come he's not performing poorly? Okay. So other players have hurt their ankle. No. He hurt his ankle, yes, but he's performing poorly because he does that in the playoffs. Okay. One playoff, I gave him a pass on the Atlanta playoff series. But between Cleveland and, of course, Miami, it's not just the Miami series. He was the Cleveland series as well. And then some people keep suggesting a trade from Mitchell Robinson. No, if you traded Mitchell Robinson, you would not be in the playoffs this year. Because Mitchell Robinson's presence started at the Cleveland game after the Knicks were embarrassed at the Garden by Luka and Dallas. And Tom shortened the rotation, and Mitchell Robinson was the starting center and the defensive anchor, and you won 8 straight, followed by another later 9 straight wins. Because Mitchell Robinson anchors the paint, and you need that. He's the best offensive rebounder in the NBA. Yes, he has things he needs to fix, no doubt, but he is developing still. There's more room for development there. He's only 25. He's going to continue to develop. So, no, we're not trading Mitchell Robinson, but we need to move Julius because, as I said, he's a piece to this puzzle that really doesn't fit. He's a third option on a playoff team. Not a number 1 and not a number 2. He's a third option on a playoff team, okay? Not the first. If you put him in the third option, it would work out pretty well, but he's not that on the Knicks. He thinks he's the 1 or the 2 option, and he shouldn't be, okay? That's the problem here. So Julius is a very key piece to us getting that piece that would fit. Okay, he's very key to that. Now, with regard, I mentioned to you many times, Kristaps Porzingis is my number 1 choice for multitude of reasons why I would want him in Julius's spot. I feel like he would not only fit perfectly with the structure of the team, but he would also fit perfectly in the culture of New York because he's been here before. He knows what to expect and he loves the city. So that would fit. But I know that Washington wants to re-sign him. Okay, they want to actually re-sign him and Kuzma, and they want to run it back next year with a healthy Bradley Beal. I don't personally think that's going to work out too well, but that's what they're trying to do. That's their strategy. And so Kristaps Porzingis could very well sign with the Washington Wizards. Okay, he is going to opt out of his deal on June 23rd. He's going to opt out. Okay, he has until June 23rd. By then, he will have opted out of his deal and become a free agent. Between June 23rd and July 1st, he can sign with Washington. Okay? And so that's possible. If he wants to stay in D.C., he could do that. He could also sign any place else he wants. Okay? So that's 50-50. And I mean 50-50. He can easily go back to Washington, or he can come to New York, or he can go anywhere else he wants to go. Probably won't go to Dallas, but he can go any place else he wants to go. Okay? So it's up in the air. To me, that's a best, a lot of y'all are hyping on his injury history. And I hear you, but if you're looking at this really objectively and closely watching him, as I have been watching him since he left New York, and especially this past year in Washington, he's a different player. And I'm not saying, he's not all of a sudden now he's 82-game guy. But like I said, I'll take 60 games of a healthy Kristaps Porzingis than 77 games of Julius Randle because we win more games, period. And then you're going to get Obi Toppin involved, and we'll win more games, period. Okay? So that's the way I look at that. But Pascal Siakam. If you look at the stats for Pascal Siakam, right? If you look at his stats, Pascal Siakam stats are very similar to Julius Randle's stats. But if you actually watch them play, see, if you're only looking at stats, they look similar. Except one major piece, very important. Pascal Siakam was the second option on a championship team. Okay, that's major. One of the things we noticed about Miami when we lost to them was that they had some pieces on there that had championship pedigree, namely Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry. And they played major roles, and they're still playing major roles for the Heat. The championship pedigree is a real thing. Okay, especially if you were in the rotation of a championship team. It's a real deal. It really counts for something. So him, that is Pascal, being the second option on that Toronto team that won the championship with Kawhi Leonard. And then they had Fred VanVleet. They had Kyle Lowry. They had, at that time, Danny Green. They had Serge Ibaka on that team. They had Valanciunas. Very similar team that the Knicks would have, subtracting Julius and adding Pascal. Very similar team. You'd have Mitchell Robinson instead of Valanciunas. You'd have, instead of Kyle Lowry, you'll have Jalen Brunson. Instead of Danny Green, you'll have a young Quentin Grimes. And then you got R.J. Barrett who would, I guess, would be more like Ibaka, but not really. But you would have R.J. Barrett on the wing, and you'd have a strong bench as well. So he fits, okay, and he fits very well. And I like him. Like I said, I like Pascal, Grant, and KP as my top three. OG is like a distant fourth, but OJ would fit too. We'll talk about him another time. But Pascal would step in. If we had Pascal Siakam, we'd be still playing. Think about that. If we had Pascal Siakam instead of Julius Randle this year, the Knicks would still be playing. Okay? Because remember, there were 2 games from the Eastern Conference Finals. So I like this. And the reason I like it is because Pascal Siakam did not make All-NBA this year. He did not make the All-NBA this year. And because of that, he's not going to cost as much as Jalen Brown's going to cost. Because Jalen Brown is going to be due, $200+ million. Now, if you really believe that Jalen Brown can take the Knicks over the top, because first off, you got to match the money. See, this is another thing I keep saying. It's Julius that has to go. The money's got to match. The Knicks do not have the cap space to just sign a guy straight out. They got to be a sign and trade. You need money for that, okay? And so you might be able to get them to take as a filler, Fournier, because he is obviously expiring. So you could use RJ's money with Fournier. You could. But okay, so let's say you did that. It'd be Fournier and RJ, and now you have Brown on one side and Randle on the other. I'm telling you that wouldn't work. Randle does not have the basketball IQ. Brown would initially, in this scenario, Brown would become your second option because Brunson's your first option, period. But then you'd have Brown as your second option in that scenario. Well, maybe it would work. And now you're going to be paying Brown an average of $40+ million a year, and it will be a scaling contract, and so it would go toward $50+ million. Okay, by the time you're done. So I don't know, that might work. I'd rather try to see, the goal here is to trade Randle. There are a number of players, and I mentioned this in videos before. There's a number of players that would fit in RJ's position and be better than RJ is right now. Or you can just wait on the guy you drafted and continue to develop with this 22-year-old kid. And then wait till he's 26, 27 when he becomes Brown, right? Or he becomes Jimmy Butler. But because a lot of people looking at Butler acting like he's always been like this. This is the height of Jimmy Butler you're seeing right now. This is, some players peak at 28, 29. This cat happened to be peaking in his 30s. But Jimmy Butler wasn't always playing like this, okay? He wasn't always like this. When he was on Chicago, this wasn't Jimmy Butler. And he was good then, but he wasn't this. Okay? So everybody tripping about Butler, you're just short-sighted in my view because you're not looking at the long-term picture. That's RJ in 3 years. That's RJ. Okay? 3-4 years, that's RJ right there. But for now, you can get a guy like a Brown and bring him in if he's willing to come to New York, and that's another story, and bring him in because New York cannot pay him $290 million. Boston can. That's okay. Boston can. Boston's the only team that can pay him that kind of money. All right. So if he wants $290 million, he's going to stay in Boston. All right. And I know they probably going to get swept by the Heat. They probably will. But it's swept by the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. He may take this one of two ways. He may say, screw this, let me go to New York. Or he may say, no, let's come back and beat these boys next year. He might, it's up to him. But he can get $290 million. But let's say for the sake of argument, he wants to come to New York. Let's for the sake of argument. So you got to decide. Is he that piece with Randle? Will Randle take the third round or the third option role? I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. Because I don't know, I don't even want to spend that kind of money and risk it. I know if you had KP or if you had Siakam, they'd be the second option. They have no problem with that. They have no problem with that. Okay? So we'll see. Grant, it depends. I think Dame Dollar's in his ear. And, if you've seen Dame Dollar's history, he gets in the ears of players. He recruits for his team. He does. He recruits hard for Portland. So he's probably in Grant's ear about making this run and them, selling this pick they got and trying to make this run. He might, be doing that. And he might cause Grant to stay, because they're going to throw the boatload of money at Grant. But we'll see. That's another one. See, it's 50-50. So Siakam's situation, though, is if you're looking at, when you look at Toronto's roster, when you look at their, in terms of salary, I'm looking at Spotrac.com on NBA. If you look at Spotrac and you see their roster, okay, Pascal Siakam's got 1 year left on his deal. Fred VanVleet can opt out this summer. OG Anunoby's got 1 year left on his deal, and he's also become an unrestricted free agent. Gary Trent Jr. has got 1 year left on his deal. So they all got 1 year left. And some of them, like I said, VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., they could opt out this summer. Okay, they can opt out this summer. So we don't know. Toronto's got decisions to make. Let's put it that way. Masai Ujiri's got some tough decisions to make. He could decide to build around Gary Trent Jr. as a piece, and then of course they're going to build around Scotty Barnes. He's their young piece. Scotty Barnes is a young kid, like 20 years old, maybe 21, and they can build around him and start from there. Or they can make a run with the guys they got and try to convince everybody to come back. But if they did that, their salary structure, these are two different salary structures now. If you decided to go build around Scotty Barnes, you still got him on his rookie deal. You can rebuild and start your salary up again. If you go to sign Pascal, that's at least $150 million. You're looking at OG, he's probably looking for $100 million. You're going to have Fred VanVleet. He's just coming off an $80 million deal. He's looking for at least another 80. And then of course Gary Trent Jr. probably looking for 80, 90 million. So you can really come back and have that whole thing again. But this is their decision. Will these guys get you over the top? Will these guys get you back to the Eastern Conference Finals? That's a big question. I don't know. I doubt it, actually. I like the team, but I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they are. So that being the case, Masai probably looks to make trades. And now, if you're dealing with Masai, he's going to be looking for draft capital. Toronto owns all their own picks. This guy's smart. And he's probably going to be looking to add to that if he's going to do that. So he's going to be looking. Now, a Julius Randle would fit because Julius is on a $28 million deal. Instead, I'm talking 40 and 50 million for some of these guys. Julius is on 28. Okay? So that would be a good piece to trade to get Siakam and maybe trade again and get some picks. That could happen. But Siakam and OG Anunoby are both gettable this summer because of the salary structures, because of where they are in their contract, and because of where Toronto is right now in decision time in terms of, do we rebuild from here or do we, move forward? Because now they got some young pieces. They have, I mentioned, they have Scotty Barnes, right? Then they got Precious Achua. You got some young guys here. So you got, let's see. You have, in terms of, you have Koloko. Koloko is 23 this year. You have Banton, another pretty good player. He's going to be 24 in November. Scotty Barnes is not going to be 20. He's 21. He's not even going to be 22 until August. And then you got backup in Malachi Flynn. Precious Achua is really a starter level player, and he's 23, going to be 24 this year. So you could build around these young guys. You could actually keep OG. OG is going to be 26, hitting his prime this summer. So, I don't know what they want to do with that. And then Fred VanVleet is going to be 29 in February, 28. So he's in his prime. So you can decide to run this back or blow it up. I don't know. It's going to be it's a 50-50 question. I don't know. But so because it is 50-50 and it's not to me a slam dunk of what Toronto is going to do, that's why I think Pascal Siakam is gettable, and I think he's gettable for Julius Randle. Now, Masai would want RJ because he's from Canada. He's 22. He matches the timeline of Scotty Barnes. Scotty would play the 4. RJ would play the 2 or the 3. He would want RJ. And I don't blame him for wanting RJ. But we'll see. This is what I'm saying. This is going to get very interesting. I would, like I said, my goal is to move Randle. I don't want to move RJ. See, that's what we're talking about here. And that's when everybody keeps bringing up RJ in trades. That bothers me because I don't want to move RJ. I want the Knicks to keep this 22-year-old kid and grow with him. I want them to win their next championship with RJ Barrett in the starting 5 because they drafted him and developed him. It would be exactly how you want a long-term sustainable team to operate. You drafted him, you developed him, and now you win a chip with him. See, here's Miami. Bam Adebayo. They drafted him, they developed him, they paid him, and now they're going to be going into their second finals with him. I want that for us. I want long-term sustainable winning, which the culture we're now finally getting. And I want RJ Barrett a part of it because we did draft him. He's growing with us. And I really believe seriously that he just doesn't fit with Julius Randle. They just don't fit. And if you bring in a KP with a higher IQ or a Siakam with a higher IQ and better defense, RJ will look a lot better. I just believe that. He'll look a lot better than he does now. So, and he's not bad now. He's still a big game. I call him Broadway Barrett because he's still a big game player. But obviously he's inconsistent a little bit. And obviously he still does things that a 22-year-old kid would do. So we have to be patient with him. So I'd rather wait him out, honestly, than go get Jalen Brown. And as I said, to me, Quentin Grimes is even more valuable than RJ Barrett, in my view. He's even more valuable. He's a better player, and he's going to have a better career. And so I want both of them cats. I want them. So Randle is really the only guy I'm talking about. And if we're talking about Joel Embiid, I'm still talking about Randle and a bench piece and draft capital. I am not trading Mitchell Robinson. I am not trading RJ Barrett. I am not trading Grimes. And of course, everybody in the world knows Brunson's untouchable. So that's not happening either. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. If it doesn't get done with them pieces, in my view, it doesn't get done. Okay, that's the way I think the Don looks at it in terms of a price. You have to have a set price in your mind. When you go shopping, unless you're filthy rich, and even filthy rich people, when you go shopping, let's say you're going shopping for a big screen TV, you have a price in mind above what you will not pay. If you said, well, my budget for my big screen is $700. If you see a nice big screen and it's $850, you're not looking at it because it's above your budget, even if it is really nice. If you see something that's in your budget at $650, okay, you're gonna look hard at that because it's in your budget and it's nice. Okay, that's how the Don has been doing this. He has a price that he's willing to pay, and if you go above the price, he'll back off the table. He's already shown it. That's why Donovan Mitchell's a Cleveland Cavalier. He will back away from the table. Okay, and I love that. He doesn't let you know what he's doing. He doesn't let you know what his price is. He already knows what his price is, and so. One thing we do know about the Don, he's not going to overspend. So, he has a price for players. He knows what his price is, what he's willing to pay. I don't really know what he's willing to pay, but I know he has a set price. And I know that does not include cleaning our cupboards to get somebody. He's not going to, some of y'all be having trade scenarios where you're sending Obi and RJ and IQ and Randle all out at the same time. Anyway, he's not going to do that. Okay, so he's got a price that he's willing to pay, and he's going to be really sending more draft capital than player capital. Okay, he'll send some player capital, and it's not about, some of y'all be talking about, well, we can send out RJ and get back this guy, that guy. I mean, send out IQ and get back this guy, that guy. What you have to understand is there's a constipation in the rotation. You're not looking about who you can get back to continue the constipation. You want to loosen it up. Okay, if you think Deuce can play like I do, I want him playing. I don't want another guy that he's got to all of a sudden compete with minutes for when I want him playing. That's why I don't want Alec Burks either. Okay? I want Deuce to play. So if IQ is leaving, give Deuce the minutes. That's all I'm saying. And we'll be just as good. Okay? So that's the way I would think about this. I'm not thinking about who can we get back to also constipate the rotation. Tom ain't playing but 9 guys. Okay? That's what he's going to play. So, and like I said, I'm trying to set the situation up so that if we move Randle for, say, a KP or a Siakam, Obi Toppin gets more minutes. Okay? Obi Toppin gets more minutes. And that is a good thing because Siakam can play the 5. He plays small ball 5 as well as the 4, and he does both of that better than Julius Randle, in my opinion. He's much more better on the defensive end, and he's way better IQ wise. So you can have Obi get more minutes in that scenario. Okay, so we'll see how this works out. But Siakam's a fit. He just is. So to me, we got KP. Here's our possibles to me: KP, Grant, Siakam, OG. And then there's a 5th option, Julius Randle. Okay, because it could very well be they just bring him back. If they don't like any deals they get, they just bring him back. I mean, if they don't, because the Don ain't going to overspend. He's not going to do that. So we could just bring back the same team. And like I said, if we had the same exact roster next year, we'll win 50 games. Okay, we will. But Julius is not going to be any better in the playoffs than you've seen him already. He's just not. He's just not a playoff guy. Period. End of story. Okay. The good thing about next year is that the rest of the guys are going to get better. Everybody's going to get better. Grimes is going to get better. RJ is going to get better. Brunson's going to get better, and Brunson and Grimes together are going to get better. Mitchell Robinson's going to get better. IQ is going to get better. Deuce is going to get better. Hart is going to get probably the same because Hart's in his prime. He's a bench piece. That's what he is. He is what he is. He's the same, which is good enough for us. And then Obi's going to get better. They're all going to get better. Okay? And so with that, building around that with Julius Randle, we're going to be a better team. The only way we would be able to advance, though, next year is if Julius took a lesser role in terms of really being a 3rd option on the team. Okay, if he still has the panache to say I'm the 1st or 2nd option and he thinks he's going to do that again, we're going to be right back here next year, losing in the 2nd round. Okay, but we'll see. Like I said, to me, a key is moving him to get a piece that will bring us to the next level. KP, Grant, Pascal will all do that. Okay, they'll all do that. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, you guys enjoy your Monday. Sure.